We are back in China this week for the Shanghai Grand Prix, and we have a lot to digest and a lot to talk about. Another dominant weekend from Mercedes. Ferrari just seemed to be missing that tiny little bit of pace just to catch up to the back of them. But another podium for Ferrari and Lewis's first podium. And not only that, Kimi's first GP pole and first race win. So with the big stuff already on the table, let's just talk about it, Aaron.
Big race this week, yeah. Sprint was interesting. Again, just another dominant display from Mercedes. Again, once they got away, that was kind of it. You know, there was nothing really anyone could do to beat them.
No.
Ferrari tried. They again showed flashes of that pace that we seen whenever they were sort of fighting in amongst themselves. But again, once the Mercedes kind of got away, it was just that was too much. And again, it sounded like the Ferraris at least were struggling with deployment all weekend. Charles was having issues coming out the safety car. He had a bit of I think he was talking about oversteer before the safety car ended, and then obviously had that kick of oversteer after the safety car ended. And then I think Lewis was complaining a couple of times during the race about power deployment. So again, is it really still the true pace of the Ferrari? I would lean in and say yes. I don't think the power delivery issues are the real root of Ferrari's lack of pace. I think it's just the engine.
Yeah, a lot said there. But like you were saying, they are down on deployment power, but they don't seem to be down on their race starts.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely incredible from Ferrari for the past two races. Unbelievable. And two really bad starts from Kimi as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't look like a lot of things were going his way at the start of this weekend. Now, granted, Mercedes looked strong, but a little bit of mistakes from them here or there. They had to bring George's car in, so they did during qualifying to find the cause of the issue to why he wasn't getting any power or any drive. So it wasn't completely perfect from them.
No, it wasn't. And it wasn't completely perfect from Kimi as well either, at least in terms of the sprint race. Obviously crashed into Hadjar and then getting himself a 10-second time penalty, which getting flashes of that kind of rookie, kind of little bit hot-headed, too excited. You know, he kind of lunged it down the inside of Hadjar when he really didn't have to. Whenever you look at the pace advantages that Mercedes has, he could have just sat there. Again, echoes of maybe Zandvoort last year, but he made it work in the end. I think he ended up coming in behind, was it Norris by the end of the race? So he was fifth by the end of the race. So, like, you know, he done well. I think the safety car definitely helped him, especially with that 10-second time.
Yeah, being able to serve
pretty much got it free.
And then cut through the field again. I don't know if that actually benefited him more serving it then or at the end of the race. I suppose it was just playing with what you had in front of you. The safety car came out, so you had to bail in and pit, like, because you got to follow everybody else.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it was the right call for Mercedes.
Yeah, but talking about other people with bad starts, Max Verstappen.
He did have a bad start. He did. I don't think he's got the hang of this Red Bull. I think he had not a fantastic start in Australia either. He didn't have a fantastic start in the sprint, and he had a pretty shocking one in the main race. So Max, I don't know. I just don't think he's fully worked it out yet.
Yeah, he's either not gelling with these cars, or there's something underlying with that Red Bull, because even Hadjar seems to be struggling a little bit to get pace out of it. So we'll just have to see what comes from the Red Bull.
Yeah, and then another big thing, obviously we're talking about the safety car, the Audis again. Another reliability issue.
Problems, yeah. A lot of reliability issues. I think we had 15 cars finished the main race.
Yes, we did. There was a lot of reliability issues, and there were a lot of very different things, not necessarily just engine. A lot, electrical systems, hydraulics. There was a lot of issues across all the cars, so it wasn't just engine issues. So it's maybe a little bit worrying, but then again, we're at the start of a new engine cycle, so it's probably not too worrying. We'll maybe just by the mid season, it might have worked those problems. Yeah, and it'll be fine. So
fingers crossed.
So into the race then. Kimi, first Grand Prix pole and first win. It's great to see.
It is.
It's great to see.
I love to see it. I do love to see it. He was very, very strong all race up until that wee mistake he made in the last two corners. So he did. I think there was a couple of laps left, but he had a nice buffer. So he did between him and George, where it wasn't so much of a danger per se. But no, very, very strong race from him, top to bottom all weekend, other than making that little mistake with Hadjar. But
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly measured and mature race from him. Like, he was managing the gaps well, and as I say, in the race, he didn't make any unnecessary risks or anything. Just ran his own race, done what he had to. Fought quite well at the start, I have to say, with the Ferraris, who were looking incredibly aggressive going into T1. Kept his cool, didn't do anything silly. Just, as I say, just ran his own race, knew what he had to do, placed the car where he needed to be, put in the laps that he had to do. And as I say, it's incredibly promising to see what's going to come up in the next couple of races, because that was a commanding win. That wasn't just right place, right time. That was like an earned win. Yes, the car is incredibly fast, but you have to be able to drive it, and he drove it well today. As you say, a couple issues. He had that lockup just before the end of the race.
Yeah.
But he had enough in pocket to make it work. And again, it's another thing. He's just not... He's going to remember that. He's going to know whenever I've got a lead, I'm running a race, just ease it off a wee bit, just bring it home. And I think even Bono got onto the radio and to kind of sort of settle him a bit and rein it in, just bring it home, mate, it'll be okay. So, no, an incredibly good race from Kimi, and it was a really good feel-good win. It was nice.
It was nice
seeing Kimi win, because I think everybody sort of likes Kimi. He's incredibly likable.
I'm a bigger Kimi fan than I would be a Mercedes fan, and I have to say, I think he has a higher potential to take this championship fight to George than Perez did per se to Verstappen back whenever they had the opportunity. I really do think Kimi has that proper world championship performance seal and that really good mentality. So I don't think he might do it this season, but it's definitely there. You can see it underlying that he's got it. Like, you just seen how emotional he was at the end of that win. It meant so much to him. And like you said, I think David Coulthard said, well, has it worn off yet?
Has it settled in?
Has it settled in about 5 minutes after he had won? So it's like, no, I don't think it's going to settle in until he gets that next Grand Prix victory, till that first win's worn off and he's got that out of the way, because some drivers get stuck at that point. Some drivers get stuck at that one win. Now, I don't say it'll happen to Kimi because he's got such a good car in front of him, but it is something that will be lingering in the back of their mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely will. And just to add to that with about having a good car behind him, he's also got a really good team behind him.
Yeah,
he's got Bono, probably one of the best race engineers next to GP in the paddock. He is worked with Lewis Hamilton, world champion level engineer to be working with. He's going to be able to get absolutely everything out of you. He's got the entire Mercedes team behind him, clearly. Toto's backing him to the hill. He's got everything there just to settle in and really just flourish in that team. So, no, I think it's going to be promising from Kimi coming up over the next couple of races, and even towards the end of this year. I think he could be, depending on how he carries the momentum, he could be taking it to George more often than George realises. Because I think once you win your first race, not that I would know, once you win your first race, I think it takes a lot of pressure off. Because you're always, when am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? And you finally get it. It's like, I can do it. I know it's, I don't have to worry about it. I've done what I needed to do, and I can just focus on getting the next one. Because once you've got the first one, it just becomes another one, and that's all he's going to be thinking about. And it's, I want another one. I want another one, and it's going to be easier and easier and easier. So I'm excited to watch him over the course of the next couple seasons with these new regs and what the relationship with George is like. And so I'm excited, and I think it's a really good start to the season to have him win it so early, second race in.
But a team that hasn't flourished so far at the start of this season, that were the world champions last season, is McLaren. A double did not start off the back of a did not start for Piastri last weekend. Now, they were looking very strong in the sprint, a lot stronger than Red Bull, and we were talking about this last week. We were saying we think McLaren and Red Bull are going to be the ones fighting each other, and it's going to be Mercedes, Ferrari fighting each other. But honestly, McLaren looked miles ahead with Red Bull. Red Bull just did not get it right this week. But McLaren, when it came to the race, I don't know what issues they were having. Both cars got right. Well, at least Piastri got a little bit further this week. He actually got to his grid box, so he did.
I got about half a mile further this week.
So well done, Piastri.
You might get the T1 next time.
But no, just a horrifying display for McLaren, and it really doesn't look good, and it just shows you the we do not see them on the broadcast anymore. We don't see Zach, we don't see Andrea, nobody's talking about them. They've fell into the abyss.
It is interesting with McLaren. As you say, I was sort of convinced last week, based just on what we saw with Norris and Max, that, they were going to be sort of mingling a bit more, but they They did look leaps and bounds ahead of the Red Bulls, at least in this track. Now, obviously, this track's slightly different to Melbourne. You got the big long straights. Melbourne is kind of less that, less heavy braking zones and stuff. So maybe the tracks aren't comparable, but just I think McLaren is going to be, they're just going to walk away from Red Bull. I think they'll probably end up catching Ferrari. I think Ferrari need to be on their guard with McLaren, because once McLaren get that car working, because obviously they're having issues with that engine.
As long as they don't get comfortable, Ferrari,
they can't be complacent.
If they don't get comfortable, then I don't think McLaren will catch them. But I don't think Ferrari have room to get comfortable, because they need to chase Mercedes.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to be, well, I'd like to think they're going to be that focused on the development race against Mercedes that they're not going to be thinking about McLaren. So, but I think if Ferrari do a Ferrari and start a season well and kind of fall off, I think you could see McLaren by the mid-season, once they've worked this engine out and once they've worked out the software and how the battery deployment works, I think you could see them up there as well, racing with the Ferraris and racing with the Mercedes, because there was nothing in that sprint performance, at least from a pace point of view, to tell me that
they can build on something.
That they're going to be languishing in the sort of best the rest for the rest of the season. I don't think they're going to let that happen. I don't think Zach's going to let that happen with what they done last year with winning especially with the double constructors back to back. They're not going to let that fall off.
No, but it is a drastic fall off from last year in performance. I don't think anybody expected it to be this high, and it doesn't look good for them. So it doesn't, even to be sitting in around that third, fourth, like you were saying. I know they're quicker than the rest and possibly quicker than Red Bull, but it's still not good. So they're going to be a little bit nervous, I think, in their garage and in their factory, and they're going to be scrambling to try and figure something out here, because they've got the best engine on the grid. They've got the Mercedes power unit, like you were saying. They've got the battery and they've got the engine. They just need to figure out how to use it. It's like they've given them the engine, but they haven't given them the instructions. Yeah. And every time they turn up to a race weekend, they don't know what they're doing, and then Mercedes is standing there like, oh well, we're not going to tell you, just got to figure it out. So, but once they get those problems out of the way, I pray they find a little bit of pace, because it'll just make that battle up at the front a little bit more interesting. Like you're saying, even if they put a little bit of pressure on Ferrari, it might even get them to consider trying to find a little bit more performance to really hinge on Mercedes and just not let them run away with it by the end of the mid-season. And then we don't know if we're going to see this engine ban or not. So it's up for interpretation.
I will just say one thing about McLaren in their favour, because not all this poor performance has been down purely to just bad driving or bad car setup. They have been slightly unfortunate. Obviously, Oscar was very unfortunate in Australia to lose it on the way around the track, and again they were unfortunate to not get the cars out under the grid today because they had two separate electrical issues. So I think they've been slightly unfortunate, and it's only the second race, so they mightn't be panicking too yet, because ultimately the things that kind of stopped them from scoring maximum points were ultimately sort of out of their hands. Obviously, maybe Oscar can hold himself accountable for what happened in Australia, but what happened today, I don't think is really, it's not their fault. It's just an electrical issue, and these things happen.
I know, but again, out of 4 main races, you've only got one set of data to work off, and that was Lando Norris's race in Australia. You haven't got any data for Piastri for either of the 2 races for a twisty, tight-knit track like Australia or China. So going into these next races, going into Japan, they're almost blind with their setup.
Oscar is going to be on the back foot 100%. Lando is going to be a little bit better off, I think, but I think it's just, there's nothing they could have done, and that's just the long and short of it. For me, at least, I think they've just been unfortunate.
No. Get better. Get better, McLaren. You're world champions. Something
that does change for me, seemingly by a minute basis, is this new 50-50 engine split battery, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a fan. I'm sorry. I was going to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I did give it the benefit of the doubt in Australia. I was like, this is great. The racing is fantastic. It's very jostly, front, there's no overtake, But I don't know, watching in China, I think just exacerbated the actual issues with the long straights and that super clipping, and it just, Mercedes can't be challenged. Now, this isn't really my issue with it, because F1's a development race, yada yada. Whoever develops the best, that's just the way it goes. But it's the way it's working. It's leading to kind of like predictable. It's weird. It's predictable racing. I think it's, you know what's going to happen. You know George is going to come out of a slow corner. Lewis is in front of him. Charles in front of him, whoever, and then George blasts past, and then Lewis catches up, and then he comes out the next corner, and then Lewis blasts past again. That happens for 5 or 6 laps. It's very exciting. Lewis passed, George passed, Charles passed, Antonelli passes. You know, everyone's swapping positions every flipping 3 or 4 corners. And then you get to the point where the Mercedes advantage in both tyre deg and just outright pace, something will happen, they get the right overtake, and then they just disappear up the road. And then another thing that I've sort of noticed, now I might be wrong, this might be my slight bias, but with the unpredictable and sort of boring racing, I think at the front, with the Mercedes eventually getting clear of the Ferrari and then running up, it seems to be developing what I can describe as they're reminiscent of the DRS trains. Whenever the race settles down, and we've seen it today in China, actually, there was, I think it was about maybe mid 30s into the 40s, you were seeing, you know, there was a car 2 seconds, then there was a 16-second gap, then a 2-second gap, then a 17-second gap, then a 4-second gap, and then an 18-second gap between the different cars. So once it settles down, the racing just dies. And the last half of that Chinese Grand Prix was bad. It was really difficult to watch. It was hard to sit through. The initial start of a Grand Prix is very exciting. Once everything settles down over a course of race distance, it just stagnates. And it's really, really bad.
And not only is it killing the racing towards the end of the Grand Prix, it's also taking crucial elements away from racing. We're not seeing late braking anymore. Nope. Because these drivers need to get on their brakes as soon as possible to recharge that battery. We're not seeing drivers back each other up to try and help their teammate ahead and create a gap and create a space, because they just can't do that anymore, because the driver's just going to take an opportunity to find an overtake with the overtake button and the active arrow. So you're losing such crucial elements and such key elements of fundamental racing. Of racing. And like you're saying, it's just creating such an artificial way of going around it. And this yo-yoing we're seeing, going backwards and forwards. Now, we did hear Charles Leclerc say on the radio he enjoyed the racing, but it's gonna get fatiguing. We've got 20 more races ahead of us. How many overtakes do we have to see until we're like, who's gonna be ahead? It's just getting annoying at this point, and we're only 2 races in. It's interesting you mentioned it's fatiguing, because I think that's the right way of framing it, because after the first 15 laps you're fed up. You're a bit bored. You see the same overtakes. Like, I don't know how many times we saw the Mercedes pass the Ferrari on the long back straight, and the Ferrari immediately passing out on the pit straight into T1, then the Mercedes having a go into that wee hairpin, and then again just back on the long straight. And it is fatiguing, because you listen to the commentators and they're hyping it, and you're watching it and you're going, well, I know what's going to happen. You're listening to the hyper commentary, and you're just, I don't know. I just don't think it's as entertaining as maybe I was going to think that it was going to be in Australia. I think I can see it being, as you say, quite fatiguing quite quickly. I think by the time you get to the mid-season, you would just be screaming for something a bit more, I don't know, what would you say, natural. I just think it's going to get very, very boring very, very quickly, and I think it is already sort of there. Now, we had a couple did not start and did not finishes. Yes. This weekend we had Gabriel Bortoleto in the Audi, and we had Alex Albon in the Williams. But predictably, we had the 2 Aston Martins. We did. Again. We did. This is almost becoming the most interesting part of a race weekend. Will the Aston Martin finish the race? I am hedging my bets. It's going to take at least 6 to 8 races before Aston Martin actually finish a full race distance. Wow, that's dramatic. That's a long time. That is a long time. But it doesn't look like their problems are sufficing anytime soon. No, there was a slight performance gain this weekend, like very slight, but again, Alonso started incredibly well. I think he got up to 10th or 11th, and then again, I think whenever we were watching the race, I was telling you, it's like, oh, there's Alonso up to 10th, will he plummet down? I think we looked at the time and tower about 10-15 laps later, pardon me, and he was right down to stone dead last. Yep.
And then Lance Stroll, obviously, I think the engine packed it in. And
Lap
then,
10 caused a safety car.
And then they brought in Alonso. I don't know if there was any issues or if they just brought him in because he was like, the vibrations are too much, I can't drive it anymore. So it is a nightmare over there at the minute. I don't really know what to say about it other than it's about as bad can be whenever it comes to starting a new regulation cycle. They have absolutely nothing right. Nothing in that car works in any capacity.
No.
It's frankly embarrassing, and I bet you Adrian Newey it's a bit like he's got a bit of egg on his face.
Yeah.
I think.
They're almost wasting everybody's time at this point. If you can't turn up to a race with a car that can complete a full race distance, if it's not a sprint, then what are you doing here? I just feel so bad for all the people that backed this team and believed in them and thought that there was an opportunity there to do something, and you turn up and you're just the laughing stock of Formula One.
Yeah, and they are literally a meme at this point. I do feel sorry for the guys at the factory and the ladies at the factory that work on these cars and design these cars and pour so many hours, and I'm sure horrendous late night shifts to get these things ready, and for what?
For people to rag on them for Alonso.
Yeah, it's just not a good situation, and I'll be honest, Honda does have a lot to answer for as well. But then again, so do Aston with their gearbox, because apparently their gearbox is not a great design either. Let's be honest about that. I think the only thing that probably is good on it is the aero platform, but the aero platform is completely pointless if you're only trundling around at 10 mile an hour. So it's, I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be a long time, and I would be surprised if Fernando even bothers to see it through to next year. I think I get to the end of this year and just think, what's the point? Because really, what is the point? He's got no time left.
No.
He is getting older, and how much longer is he willing to wait? Lance Stroll can wait forever, because Lance Stroll, as you said earlier on, was effectively just getting paid to fly around the world.
Yeah.
So he's just having a jolly. Alonso is a racer and wants to race.
And he cannot do that.
He can't. So it's... I genuinely don't know. I don't know what the situation of that team's going to be at the end of this year, let alone the mid-season. It's just embarrassing, and it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch.
It's very hard to watch, especially for teams like Cadillac. Now they're not excelling on pace, but at least they're turning up and finishing the races. At least they're getting they're getting data, and they're going to be able to use that data to improve the car and build a strong platform. Aston Martin I don't even think they know what direction they're supposed to be going right now. No. They could be going north and their compass is saying east. Yeah. It's you know what I mean? It's a complete sham over there. Yeah. And I don't know whenever they're going to fix their problems.
And to be fair to Cadillac, they are ahead on merit. They actually are on merit.
Yeah.
They have, which is interesting. They have, now I know they're using the Ferrari engine, which by all accounts looks bulletproof in terms of reliability. I don't think there's been as many reliability issues with the Ferrari power unit in either the Ferrari team or their customer teams as the Mercedes power unit has. So I think purely on reliability, the Ferrari engine is the best. Obviously, they've got that going for them. I think they do share a fair amount of components with the Ferrari car as well. So again, they haven't had to design everything. But by all accounts, they've designed a far better car than Aston. Yeah, and they have a far better package on pure merit.
Yeah, so for somebody who's never been here before, they're doing as best as they could.
So it's a testament to them as well. So again, and it just makes you wonder, what is going on at Aston Martin?
What have they been doing for this last year?
Exactly.
Why were these problems not spotted sooner, figured out sooner? How did nobody look at this information and go, something's wrong here? Yeah. This engine and this gearbox is going to rattle the shit out of our drivers until they have to pull the car over and get out before they suffer major nerve damage.
Yeah, and now, if what I read is true, I bet you knew he's probably kicking himself for asking about, reworking of the engine, because it's brought nothing but disasters to that team. Suppose we move on to everyone's favorite racing driver, Supermax.
Supermax for Verstappen.
Max. Supermax.
Not so super this
at the minute.
Year.
No, he's not. He's not super. He's been challenged by this Red Bull quite a lot. I think this Red Bull is going to be what makes his mind up about whether or not he wants to stay in the sport. Because Max wants to win. I don't think he's going to want to wait around any longer. He could afford to wait when the Red Bull wasn't fantastic in the high downforce turbo hybrid regs in sort of 2017 onwards and that there. He doesn't want to wait now, you know. He's won his titles. He just wants to keep winning. And this car looks a handful. It looks like a real handful. It was suffering from quite heavy deg. He then eventually retired from the race with what I think was an ERS cooling issue. Not good. And on several occasions, at least this weekend, he was making some really uncharacteristic mistakes. He was going wide. I think he went wide at turn one quite. You know, he was nearly in Beijing, but how wide he went. And then I think he went wide at the hairpin just after. And I think there was a couple lockups and stuff. He just couldn't get a handle of this car. And again, even Hadjar was having issues with the car, obviously with his spin at T1 with Ollie Bierman, with Ollie Bierman nearly taking him out. So the Red Bull's got a lot to figure out.
Yeah, and it's not like you were saying. It's not just centralized in one area that they can focus on. It's all areas of the car. It's performance, it's reliability, it's setup, it's everything. And where do you start whenever you have so many problems in front of you and you have a driver with such a short fuse as Max Verstappen? This guy doesn't. He's like a younger version of Alonso. He doesn't have all this time to wait. He's going to be there if you're quick, and he's not going to be there if you're not. And this is a man that has said he wanted to start and finish his career at Red Bull. So I believe as soon as Red Bull stop having a competitive car, that's whenever Max Verstappen leaves. And it very well could be at the end of this year.
I wouldn't be surprised. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised, because I know he always threatens and we're like, oh yeah, Max, I'm going to leave F1. This could be it. If they can't make serious inroads, I could see him, because I'm pretty sure, I think he does have a performance clause in his contract. If he's not if he's not X position by X point of the season, then he can institute an exit clause because he's not doing as well as he thinks he should be. So yeah, the issues with the Red Bull, it looked sort of hopeful in Australia. I think that might have been a slight outlier.
Yeah, like we were saying, it looked on par with the McLaren.
It did. But this weekend, it was nowhere.
It was absolutely nowhere.
Max can't get that thing off the line.
Nope.
That thing is bogging down really quite badly.
Which is surprising, because Hadjar doesn't seem to be suffering from the exact same issue.
Yeah. I know, it's a weird one.
It's a weird one.
Max is 3 for 3, isn't he, for quite poor
bad starts. Both of them in China and Australia wasn't great either. He was fighting from the back of the grid as well. So, I will assure he was 20th, so he was in Australia. So, no, Max Verstappen seems to be not having fun this year like he said he was gonna be.
But I'm pretty sure he was one of these drivers that was like flagging the potential issues with these 2026 regs on the sim maybe about a year and a half ago. So I think he was almost expecting it, but expecting it and living it is two very different things. And he's not going to be happy now that, well, what he predicted has come true, and it is as bad, because he's not the only driver that's lambasted these regs over the last while. You know, I think Ocon described it as a go-kart race.
Yeah.
Not in a good way.
No. I think
not like a let's go down the nuts corner for a fun afternoon.
No, I think everybody's had their fair share of something to say about these regulations.
Other than George, he loves it.
Oh, he loves it.
He's loving it.
He thinks they're great, so he does.
He's never driven a better car in his life.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, Red Bull, very, very challenged this year, and I think more problems to come.
I can't see them making big inroads, because it's going to be hard to make big inroads, I think, because Max is going to be putting so much pressure on. I think they need to know where the issues lie and how to fix it quite quickly, because there is a real need for them to fix it quickly with Max as your driver. You know, it's not like they've got a Hadjar and a Lindblad in the Red Bull. You know, two young lads that can sort of sit and drive the car for 3-4 years so they build up the experience and build up the car. They need to get the car quick, because Max already has that. If the car was quick, he would be at the front fighting for wins and possibly fighting for the title. So there's real pressure to get the car as far up the grid as quickly as possible, and I find it very, very hard to believe that they'll do that in any reasonable time frame.
Now, just before we wrap things up, I want to talk about one team that really caught my eye this week, and that was Alpine. Very, very strong race finish there at the end. I believe they got 2 points finishes with Gasly in P6 and Colapinto in P10 for a team that has been the rag of every single person on the internet for the past 2 to 3 years. They have really turned it around at the start of this year. Whenever they said they were focusing on 2026, they were not lying, because their car is almost best of the rest after McLaren.
It's up there.
It's almost quicker than the Red Bull on its day, as we've seen today.
Definitely leading that midfield 100%.
Yeah.
I am surprised by Alpine. Now, I know a couple of my mates out there, if they're watching, are wishing ill will on Alpine anytime I talk to them about Alpine. But I think they're doing really well. I think they just need to steady themselves, because last year and subsequent years before as well, they have been like an absolute just nightmare, an management hell.
After
Alpine.
Alonso left, it's like whenever they really started to go downhill.
So, no, I want to see Alpine do well, because I do like the Alpine team. I do like Renault as a brand. So it was good to see them do well this week. And it does seem that the Mercedes engine did give them the boost that they needed. They seem to have a fairly solid car, and obviously Gasly is able to extract the performance out of that car as well. Colapinto is also putting in some good shifts, and he did I can't really fault him all week this week, so he was good. So I think he did have that coming together with Ocon, though. Obviously not his fault. It was that Gasly.
That was Ocon's fault. So it was. It looked like he just got onto the curb too much, and whenever he hit the brakes, he just slipped and he just hit the side of him.
So can't fault them for that.
Can't fault them. Strong weekend for Alpine, for a team that we literally have had nothing to say about in some of our videos. I'm happy to be able to actually say something positive about them.
It's good to see other teams moving up. Up the midfield order, because I feel like the midfield has a pretty, a tendency to sort of stay stagnant. You have your usual kind of midfield worst, midfield best, kind of just in the middle. So there is some good movement in between that midfield, because even Haas have really jumped up as well.
We've seen that from Haas and Williams. They were always at the bottom of the midfield, so they were scrapping for those 1 and 2 points, but they're really starting to jump up now. I can't say for Williams this year so far. But I can say that for Haas, because we actually haven't talked about Ollie Behrman. 5th place in the Haas today, best of the rest. Now, I know he probably wouldn't have finished there if the McLarens were running.
Probably not, no.
But you have to take your opportunities. You got to start, So, very, very good race from Ollie Behrman. We were sad to see that he didn't get the driver of the day. We were fully expecting him to get it.
For me, he was my driver 100%. Of the day. He was my driver of the day, followed by Kimi.
Yeah, very sad on the British bias on the broadcast today. I'm surprised he wasn't talked about as much as
nobody even mentioned it.
Nobody mentioned it.
But no, it was good to see Ollie up there, because if Lewis does decide to leave Ferrari, I can't see him leaving.
I can't see him leaving at the end of 26 now.
But if he leaves in 27, get Ollie in there. He's quick,
And this is something that we were sort of talking about, is that Kimi Ollie Behrman battle for Ferrari. Is this a future lineup we could see, 2030 into the future? Could we see Kimi and Behrman fighting in a Ferrari together?
Kimi and Ollie in the Ferrari is my dream.
That would be my
future Ferrari lineup.
Lineup as well.
Be brilliant.
It would be unbelievable.
So that is our race review for the 2026 Chinese Grand Prix. What did you think of the Chinese Grand Prix? What was your best highlight from the race today, and the sprint and the qualifying? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button to join our pitbull and give us a like. And we'll see you in Japan. See ya.